Hi, I'm Steve. You're watching Gear Stuff and Things, and today on the channel we are going to talk about this guy right here, which is the Jazzmaster Jazzmaster from Squier. This one has been modified quite heavily to become a baritone guitar, and that's really what we're here to talk about. And we're also going to talk about that other Squier baritone that everyone's obsessed with, and why I'm going to ruffle a bit of feathers in the baritone world with this video and telling you how much of a waste of money and time that guitar is. So stick around, and if you got really sensitive baritone feelings, this may be a video that upsets you. And if you have sensitive baritone feelings, you may want to address that because that's silly. Let's check out the playthrough. Alright, so everything you just heard in the playthrough features this Jazzmaster from Squier that has been converted to be a baritone. And all the tones you heard are from my brand new Helix pack, which is going to be available in the description. And they're all go-to, mix-ready, awesome tones to just get going, no waiting, pull these guys up, start recording as soon as possible. Great go-to tones. There's also some synth stuff in there to get some really cool sounds out of your guitar that are not traditional guitar sounds. So anything you heard in the playthrough that sounded like a synth, that was guitar, and I'm stoked to see what you do with those tones, but that's not what we're here for. That's for another time. Again, link in the description to the Helix pack. But what we are here for is to talk about this guitar and converting it to baritone, and we're going to talk about the other giant Antiqua and or black elephants in the room, the Squier Jazzmaster baritone. Alright, so let's just go ahead and peel the band-aid off and get the butt hurt out of the way, because it just needs to happen. We're going to talk about the Squier Jazzmaster baritone, the Antiqua one and the blacked out one that everyone is so familiar with and going crazy with because Loathe started playing them. I like Loathe a lot. I think they do great stuff. They're a really inventive band. I think it's awesome that they're tuning that low and doing inventive things with the instrument. I back that 110%. I am not dogging Loathe. I am about to dog your precious Squier Jazzmaster baritone. I'm sorry. So before we get into beating this guitar to death with my opinion, which is just my opinion, and feel free to think that my opinion is invalid and stupid because, well, it is. I'm one of millions of human beings who just happens to have a silly opinion about something. However, I do come into this opinion with some expertise and experience, as I've played baritone for 20 years. The Squier Jazzmaster baritone is not very good. I'm sorry, it just isn't. But let's talk a little bit about the history of the instrument, and then I'll get into my distaste for it. So, in 2014, this guitar was introduced. It was introduced in Antigua. It is actually kind of a cool thing because they don't make that color very often, but mostly because it looks like baby shit and no one likes it. As it turns out, it's an entry-level baritone that was in an ugly color that not everyone likes, and it was also 30-inch in scale, and you would say, well, the 30 inches is why I want it. Okay. Well, a lot of people that don't play baritone as a primary instrument, which I am somebody who does play baritone as my primary instrument, but if I wasn't, and I'm just looking to have a baritone for textural purposes, or just to tinker with on recordings, or just to have one around, or I'm in a studio and I just need to have a baritone, you're not looking to go to something that's a massive leap in transition. A lot of people are looking for 27-inch baritones because it's a lot easier to transition from a 25.5 scale Fender to a 27-inch guitar, or going even from the Gibson scale to 27. It's a jump, but it's still a little easier to accommodate and transition to as a player than going to 30, which puts us in short scale bass territory. Initially, this guitar didn't do well. And I hate to say it, it just didn't. It didn't sell very well. But because I'm a baritone enthusiast and someone who loves them, and I really enjoy ugly guitars, I also really enjoy offset instruments, and I have been pining for an offset baritone that spoke my ugly baby shit loving language. I was stoked when this came out, and I was on tour. And on said tour, I went to Guitar Center in Illinois with a pal of mine who was in the band with me. He went to play with some bass stuff, and I went to explore and tinker with this jam. It wasn't good. It did not play well. So I played another one at a different Guitar Center later on that same tour, but this time in Nashville. It also did not play well, and it didn't sound good. 2 down, maybe it's an anomaly, but also the thing I noticed the most is that they felt completely different. The inconsistencies in the manufacture between these two instruments were so vast that two off of the same, I assume, same production line felt like completely different guitars, and not in a good way. They both felt crappy. And then I played another one at a Sam Ash. The Sam Ash, as a matter of fact. And still not good. Wasn't a good guitar. So when they reintroduced them in the blacked out version, I wanted to try one of those to see if they'd improve things. And I wasn't able to find one in the store, so I never really got to play one in that setting, but I did get to play a couple buddies of mine who own one, including Scott Bunn, who has a wonderful channel here where he focuses a lot on baritone stuff. That's his jam. Great guy, not a great guitar. I'm sorry, Scott. I'm sorry, but it's not a good guitar. I played his. His was set up really well. It should have felt like a dream to play. It felt okay. And when I saw that the Squier Jazzmaster baritone was going for $800 to $1,200 on the used market, I've just become a little bit infuriated about it because it's stupid. And I love all of you, and I'm very appreciative for you being here. But if you're one of the people who has paid over $500 for this instrument, I have a lot of questions for you, but mostly why? Because it's not good. So let's talk about what is good. The Jazzmaster from Squier. It's the bee's knees. And I'm going to tell you why it's the best guitar, in my opinion, as far as an offset goes, to convert into a baritone. Number one, it's not discontinued. It's a Jazzmaster baritone, very discontinued. As a matter of fact, it's been discontinued twice because it did not sell well when it was introduced. It's doing okay now because there's a demand for it. No one cared when it came out. That's reality. Sorry, friends. The Jazzmaster continues to be available and in various colors now because there are limited production models with Chicago Music Exchange and with Thomann, so on and so forth. And Andertons, there are cool versions of this guitar that exist. There's also multiple versions of the Jazzmaster that are made by Squier. But what's even cooler, and why I think that you need to know it, and that's even why I'm making this video, is that you can find these used for anywhere between $300 for the whole guitar, all the way up to $500, and there's some older versions of it that are selling a little bit higher on Reverb, but you can probably find one used for around $300 to $350. I found one for $300, the whole guitar. I took the neck off of it, and I sold the neck for $150. I spent an extra $20 in shipping costs to have a neck sent to me from the fine folks at Warmouth. So I sold a neck, $150, bought a neck, $150 plus $20 in shipping, and now I have a baritone, a 28 5/8 inch baritone, using that body. Now I did some modifications to it, and we're going to talk about those shortly, but already out of the gate, just putting the neck on the guitar and getting it set up with the original tremolo and all that stuff, amazing guitar, much more stable, much more friendly as far as doing modifications to it over time, and I'm still less than $500 invested. And yes, it is a different scale. However, it doesn't really matter that much. Most people I see using the Squier Jazzmaster baritone, the one is 30 inches, are usually just tuning to G standard or F. A few people are doing the E thing, or they're tuning it down to D with no issue, and with some intonation and string adjustments and a neck adjustment with the 28 5/8, you can do the same thing. If you don't believe me, there's a gentleman that is in the band Dead Register, and you can go look him up. He has 3 baritones that he has built using these necks, and he sets them up as bass 6, and he uses them in his band. He's also very public about what he's done in order to make them intonate properly and play properly, and that information is all available on their Instagram as well as other places. If you are insistent upon having a 30-inch scale guitar, I'm sure you could spend the same amount of money and order the bass 6 neck from Warmouth, which I've just done recently, and I'll be covering that in another video, and you could adapt it to this. Now, their thing will tell you it doesn't work, and I can tell you that with a little bit of augmentation, either to your bridge placement or to the neck pocket itself, it is very possible for it to work. And again, that's for another video. All right, so before we wrap up, I'm going to talk to you about this Jazzmaster that I have modified to become a baritone, and reiterate a few points here. I know I've used this guitar in previous videos, so if you're someone who has seen those, then you already kind of know the story behind the guitar. If not, I'll put a link up there to where you can go check out the original video featuring this guitar. And I've done some changes to it since then. But let me just reiterate a few things, particularly regarding the price. The Squier Jazzmaster baritone, which you can find used on Reverb or eBay and occasionally Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, so on and so forth, go from anywhere between $800 US to $1,200 US for a used entry-level instrument that was originally $449 at its standing price when it was new, but it didn't sell at that point for that price because no one wanted them, so they were marked down to $349 and $399 at most stores. So if we want to do the math on that, let's just say that the guitar was $349 when someone purchased it, and you paid $800 to $1,200 for it. That should be the whole video right there. Crazy. But here are some ways to spend that kind of money, if not significantly less, and get a much cooler instrument. By significantly less, I mean you could spend all the way up to $800 or $1,200 if you wanted. With this one right here, I'm going to talk like the Micro Machines guy, and I'll slow it down for a second. So you could spend that kind of money with a build of this kind and actually go completely ham with it and have an amazing instrument, and we'll talk about that. But you can also spend significantly less and also still have an amazing instrument. So to reiterate what I said previously, this guitar as a whole, prior to my modifications, was $300. I sold the original neck for $150. I ordered the baritone replacement conversion neck for $150 plus $20 in shipping from Warmouth. It was a seamless transition. I put it on, it worked. I don't like tremolos, so I took the tremolo out and replaced it with this hardtail thing. Where this is important to our comparison between this and the Squier Jazzmaster baritone. The Squier Jazzmaster baritone has a terrible bridge on it. It's very poorly designed. It's also a bridge that can't really be changed with aftermarket stuff without physically changing something about the wood that the guitar is constructed out of. You have to drill things, you have to move things around. It's just a poor design. And if you want to do any sort of change to it that won't vastly change the aesthetics of the wood itself, You can't. So that in itself is a selling point for this. But anyways, this was completely swappable. I took it, the old one out, unscrewed it, screwed the new one in. Done. Not to mention, this is made by a gentleman who is a part of the Baritone Obsessed community, and these vary in price between roughly $40 to $50, depending on what setup you want and what colors you want. He also makes pick guards that can be replaced with any of the guitars as well. So that was the first big change, the neck and the bridge. And I know I've covered that in a previous video. Now, temporarily, I put a humbucker in here, and I ordered a ring that allowed me to put a humbucker in this position. And it just didn't sound good, and it definitely didn't sound as good as the original pickups, which was kind of weirding me out. So I did a little research, thanks Google, and discovered that they're not Jazzmaster pickups. And that's part of the reason they sound so good, is because they're P90s. Traditional Jazzmaster pickups are kind of a mix between a Strat and a Tele pickup. They're much more jangly and bright, a little thinner sounding, in my opinion. They also have standard pull pieces. They don't turn or move, and these have the P90s underneath them. So it's just a P90 and a Jazzmaster housing, which explains why I love them so much, because P90s just sound great to me. They're my favorite pickup in general. But they handle the gnarly stuff really well, so they're great for super thick stuff. Now, if you've not listened to Dinosaur Jr., whether it's your thing or not, Jazzmaster is loaded with fuzz and distortion, and he plays incredibly loud and just a wall of sound thing going on, and his guitar tones always sound amazing, even though they're completely saturated in fuzz and distortion. And a lot of it has to do with using an overwound P90 as his go-to pickup, and it just works, man. If you're using a super dense distortion or fuzz of any kind, these pickups cut through. And I don't know what is in the Jazzmaster Baritone, but if it's something similar to this, then I totally can understand why people liked it. When I played them, it sounded like regular Jazzmaster pickups, but worse. So I don't know. Either way, these sound great. I have gutted the control area here, and that's more of a personal preference thing, because I just don't want to bump into it while I'm playing. But this is also a plus to the Jazzmaster or traditional Squier Jazzmaster options, is that this provides you a lot of tonal variation. You could do different things with these switches. You could have it be a kill switch. You could probably wire it up to do all kinds of things. If you had different pickups, you could do some series parallel stuff. All kinds of options there, or you could just disconnect it like I did and play it with a three-way switch, which actually brings you back to the Squier Jazzmaster Baritone territory. And yeah, all of this said and done, still less than $500. Sorry, friends out there that have paid crazy money for the Squier Baritone Jazzmaster. Less than $500 for this guy. And I know you're probably thinking, well, that's 28 5/8 and not 30 inches, and I kind of mentioned that previously. There are options for that, but if you're really, really, really desperate and you still don't want to spend that kind of money, well, the same gentleman that makes this lovely bridge replacement makes pickguard replacements for base 6 Squiers. So you still got that 30-inch scale, and you could get one of these sweet hardtail setups from him. Get what I'm getting at? Get yourself a new pickguard set up with whatever pickup configuration you want. You might have to do some routing on the Jazzmaster or on the base 6, but you're still going to spend less than $800 or $1,200 to make it fully functional and useful. So that is my video, and hope I didn't ruffle any feathers too much, but please understand that this is more so me joking. I'm not really dogging you completely, but I do think it is very silly to spend that kind of money on a used entry-level instrument. So if you are someone who is curious and has more questions about how I did things, what I build, what profiles, things like that, all the stuff, please let me know. Again, all of the tones you heard at the beginning of the video are from a new Helix pack that I'm releasing, and I'll put a link to that in the description as well. I hope you are all well and hope you had a great Thanksgiving holiday if you did that sort of thing, and I hope that the next few weeks coming up are going to be awesome as well, and I can't wait to get back to you with new videos. So until next time, it's been me, it's been you. It's actually that one in particular. That guy right there he's all about it, man. I love that guy. Oh, that guy's here too. That's cool. Anyway, yeah, all of you amazing people, and I'm so happy to be a part of this community, and I appreciate you taking the time to watch these videos. And until next time, bye.